Now the police in Michigan up there trying to kick these brothers out of the park or whatever whatnot. For no reason. Real though, they causing a disturbance. And no, nobody wasn't causing a disturbance at all. It was just hanging out at the park, having a good time. And then next thing police show up and trying to make up some nonsense and trying to kick them up out the park for no reason. And that's some crazy stuff. And they didn't stand down. They stood their ground. Around them. They wasn't go let the cops have their way because they wanted them to get out the perk. That's on bro. Anyway, now this dude was sitting outside the church and he had a whole lot of stuff with him. Like he had iron blowers and some swords and other stuff with him or whatever whatnot. And they placed this man in jail or whatever and gave him a $250,000 bond on him or whatever whatnot. You know what I'm saying? That's some crazy stuff. But shoot, they just actually saying oh okay, let's see if he come up with this money, right? I'm just that's some crazy stuff and that's on bro. Anyway, so now is one guy actually was talking to this dude because he had a GoPro camera on his helmet or whatever went on, and he after saying it was against some sort of law or something to have that on his helmet or whatever went on. And this dude was on a bike, he was a biker and all that. And he was at that it was a traffic stop or whatever went on. You know what I'm saying? But dude was in the parking lot. He wasn't even driving a motorcycle. So how is a traffic stop if he was in a parking lot or whatever went on? And in fact, he had to get off the motorcycle and all that. You know what I'm saying? Plus he wasn't even driving. So he was just explaining to the cop about how he was violating his rights or whatever when I, you know what I'm saying? But and then he wanted to speak to the supervisor and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because the cop was up there trying to actually tell him something and also whatever when I, and he wasn't trying to hear that. But it didn't get physical or nothing like that because you know what I'm saying, he spoke to them as a civilized person. And plus he gave him a ticket or whatever whatnot. And that's some crazy stuff. But hey, at least it wasn't violent and that's one bro. Anyway. So the dude tried to steal a police vehicle or whatever whatnot. He didn't try to steal a squad car or nothing like that. But he tried to steal the police personal vehicle or whatever whatnot. His Jeep or whatever. Know what I'm saying? So the cop just went at him or whatever whatnot, you know what I'm saying? And he stopped him from going inside this car because he had this car wide open. And I think he was looking inside or whatever whatnot, you know what I'm saying? Oh my goodness, it was crazy as ever. He started hitting the man or whatever. When he dropped him down on the ground or whatever, just hit him and just kept on hitting him or whatever. And he actually searched his pockets, right? He pulled out a whole bunch of stuff. He pulled out change. He pulled out a whole bunch of stuff for real though. I'm like, oh my goodness. Dude was up there whining and stuff oh, you hit me. Oh my goodness, you hit me in my bus. But I can't stand up. I can't even breathe. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy as ever. I'm like, oh my goodness, what is going on or whatever. But I can understand, dude got into his feelings because this man just actually broke into his truck or whatever whatnot. Not saying, well, actually his Jeep. So yeah, I mean shoot, they was he just stood the dude up. They was on the pocket for this one, but because they roughed this dude out. Let's break this dude up without him being violent himself. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't being violent to them or nothing like that. But for real though, he just like, stood him up whatsoever. They put him in a squad car. The other police officer went to the squad car. He pulled him out by his leg, put him back down on the ground or whatever. It was crazy as ever. You know what I'm saying? And it was just crazy. They was oh my goodness, just put dude on the ground or whatever. He asked him about his dog's name because he had his dog with him or whatever. Dude had that actually keep on telling the cops his dog's name or whatever because he had a dog with him or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And when the supervisor came out or whatever, the supervisor did something crazy as ever. He told one of the cops to turn off the body cam. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy as ever. Anyway, so yeah, all three of the cops got in trouble. You know what I'm saying? I mean, shoot. But both of the other cops, yeah, they got in trouble. The supervisor, he retired even before he got in trouble. So, yeah, I mean, that was crazy. The one cop, he got fired. He got fired on the spot because why? I mean, shoot, he did some unnecessary things. From beating that man up. Why he was down on the ground, not even trying to cause no violence or nothing like that. For real, I can understand that he was wrong, that he broke into his car, but still though, I mean, he just wailed on him. That's about it. For real though. Anyway, he got hired again and then got fired again. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's crazy. It was crazy as ever. And that's on bro. Anyway, so it's cop just actually went to go mess with this wrong dude or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just mess with him or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I mean they said they went out there to for disturbance or whatever. Said him and that shorty was up there screaming at each other or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Over something over something or whatever. Ain't no domestic violence and stuff was going on or nothing like that. And then they actually just went out there, just went to see what's going on. Nothing was going on. So they asked him for their identification. His girl gave them her identification or whatever. Not saying it was peaceful. It's ever. You know what I'm saying? And the brother, actually didn't want to talk to the cop or nothing like that. And the cop was you know what I'm saying, they need this identification so they could be on their way or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And Brody didn't even want to give it to him or nothing like that. So the cop did got kind of agitated, and grabbed him by his arm and placed him down on the ground and started twisting his arm or whatsoever or whatnot, and said he was touching his waistband actually, and he was stop resisting, get down on the ground or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy as ever, twisting his arm and all that stuff. I'm oh my goodness, it was crazy. It was crazy as ever. I mean, shoot, that was some crazy stuff. Dude wasn't doing nothing to them. He wasn't you know what I'm saying? He didn't, but he just didn't want to talk to him. He just didn't want to talk or whatever. So, yeah. Anyway, they just got him up or whatever, put him up in a small car or whatever. After both of them roped him up, one of them, kneed him right up in his ribs, breaking one of them or whatever. I'm oh my goodness, it's crazy. It's crazy as ever. I'm oh my goodness, that's some crazy stuff. Real though. And when they took him to the prison, they lied to their superior. Both of them lied to their superior. But the body cam showed it all. For real though. It showed it all. So that they was on that boon or whatever for real though. And that's on bro. And dude got all them charges against them got dropped. Because they lied and tried to get away with it. But the body cam showed them that None of that stuff that they said happened or whatever. And that's all, bro. Anyway, so this cop, like, start, like, actually, like, going after this, like, creator, this content creator or whatever, that went up in as, like, health center or whatever went on, you know what I'm saying? And, like, he was up there just, like, obviously just asking the police about, like, some sort of questions or whatever went on, about the information that he wanted or whatever. And, like, the cops, like, just wanted him to leave or whatever went on. He didn't want to leave because, why? He, like, actually wanted to get some information that he never got before. So, anyway, the, like, chief of police actually, like, start putting hands on this man right after he got agitated because he just, like, just got irritated because dude was asking too many questions. And then he, like, just grabbed him and just, like, just manhandled him. Just manhandled this man or whatever whatnot. Now this dude, like, went back to the, like, police, went back to that place or whatever whatnot to, like, actually, like, report him or whatever, report the cop. And the same cop, the same chief was right there by the door. He was blocking the door, bro. And I'm not even playing, gang. I'm not even playing when I say this. He blocked the door and he was actually talking major stuff to this dude or whatever whatnot. And, like, it was crazy. It was crazy as ever. When dude was, like, didn't want to leave or nothing like that, then he put hands on him again or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy. He started slamming them against the wall. Yes, it was crazy as ever. You know what I'm saying? They, like, put, like, handcuffs on them. You know what I'm saying? Took them to the, like, investigation room or whatever whatnot. He told both of the, like, cops to turn on the body cams or whatever they did, but they didn't even know that it was still a camera up in there. And dude smacked him. He, like, actually, like, threw him down on that, like, metal seat or whatever whatnot. He smacked the stuff out of him, jacked him up, smacked him again and all that stuff. Like, oh my goodness, it was crazy, gang. I'm telling you. And that's some crazy stuff. Anyway, he got fired and all that stuff. He couldn't even, like, be policing no more. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, yeah, they had to let him go. Now, he's in the, like, school department or whatever, you know what I mean? And he's the president of school or whatever. Of elementary school or whatever, whatnot. And people up there just, like, saying, like, they don't want him around their kids. They don't want him around their kids. I don't know what they gonna do, but shoot, they don't want him around their kids. But what happened in, like, July the 1st in 2024, like, you know what I'm saying? Because, like, yeah, dude have an anger problem, and shoot, once it pops off, oh my goodness, you already know. I don't know what he gonna do, but I know exactly what's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Next thing he gonna oops outside your head, you know what I'm saying, gang? And that's on, bro. But anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, hit the bell on notifications so you see my next upload and my next post, and to make sure I make another one tomorrow. And oh yeah, you can check out my previous videos if you like it. So long, farewell, goodbye.